All right, so like I said, my name is Andach June Spina Allen. I'm helping to moderate this presentation, so I'll just kind of be around. This is going to be really great, really interactive. We're going to get to taste some things, and there's tea and all these beautiful plants that we're going to be looking at. So I am going to hand it over to our presenters to introduce themselves. But yeah, get excited for a really amazing presentation.
Start first. What's that? You first. Okay. Well, I'm going to end. You want to introduce yourself first, Bob?
Well, good afternoon. My name is Bob Sam, and I'm Birdie Sam's dad.
Good afternoon. My Tlingit name, my real name is Khasheechtlaa. I also carry two other names, Yayi Tandutgain and Yanduske, which are names of my great-grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, and my great-great-great-grandmother. I'm Kiksadi from this land. There used to be a local radio show, and I've always wanted to be on it because the host would start his question with, "What brought you to Sitka?" And I've always wanted to be able to say, "Oh, the last ice age."
Gunachish, Kayaaní Shaawat, you cut to a stock, yes, Nakatsati, Kachari Ayakat. Kachkana ak, Taltan Dachkana Ayakat, Kitchi Hit. My mother was Minnie Larson. Her mom was Emma Shakes. My English name is Trixie Bennett. I live in Ketchikan, but I'm also from Wrangell. See some Wrangell people here, and my Kachari sister there, or auntie. It's good to see you. My grandfather's people were Nanya Ai. We always honor our grandparents when we introduce ourselves, and I'm happy to be here sharing some plant knowledge with you today. Gunachish.
Gunachish. Kaasei yuchat duwasak, dao da'u yuchat duwasak, wishkitan nachat sati, tus hit ayakat, dakdain tan yadi. Let's see, Tachanak Owe Yuhan. My Tlingit name is Kaasei, named after my grandmother, and Daud'u after my great-grandmother. I'm Wishkitan from the Shark House from Berners Bay area, and I live in Ketchikan, and I've raised my 5 children there in Tontaquan and Sanyaquan lands. And we have a number of different things that we're going to share today, and definitely not enough time, but hopefully you'll get to hear a little bit about what we've been working on and get inspired. There's good work going on everywhere, really, and we're excited to share today. The title is called Plant Teachings and Respectful Harvesting Guidelines, and one of the things that what we've noticed is that everybody wants to get out and harvest, and that's the kind of the fun part. And when we think about plants as our family and our relatives, we need to kind of, we think, take a step back and take our time to get to know the plants. And so we're going to start with respectful harvesting guidelines, and that's kind of what I like to do to start all of my presentations, and kind of just set the tone for how that even started. There was, I was in Fairbanks, it was minus 50, and it was right before COVID, and I met many people. I had just been caregiving for my sister who passed, and I spent, she lived with me for 25 years, and I was a director of a domestic violence shelter for about 10 years, and took some time off, and was really fortunate that I left my position because I was able to then take care of my sister, which I didn't know was going to get much sicker. And so I spent a couple years taking care of her. And she was just a bright person, kind of famous. Actually, I think they did a proclamation for her because she was just, if you went to Ketchikan, she would be at all the games. She was the welcoming crew. And she would tell people who they were and, I mean, how beautiful they were. She would tell knock-knock jokes, and she was just a light. And so she was one of my, and is still one of my, my teachers, and I still learn a lot from her. And so I hadn't worked for a few years, and I was in Fairbanks, and I met all these wonderful people, and a lot of them were young. And I was just inspired by their ability to say what they needed to say. And they were part of standing up for the land, and they were really, really passionate about protecting what we love in this area of Alaska. And they all were operating off of indigenous values, but they came from all different backgrounds and cultures. And so I really loved being around them, and I was approached by a man, and I had a tea bar. We'll have a tea bar set up tomorrow in the morning at around 10:15, and you could try some different plants. And so I had a tea bar set up, and it was 50 below, so it was kind of a nice time to have tea. And people were so happy and so excited, and I noticed that if I had one of those like cameras up, where like candid camera, would have been perfect just to capture the smiles and how people were just so happy to try the different plants. And then I was approached by a person that said, asked me, do you think that what you're doing is violence prevention? And coming from a background of working in the domestic violence field, I said, oh, you're asking the right person. Of course. Of course, this is berry picking is prevention, don't you know? And for years, I was traveling around the state presenting on historical trauma, but also highlighting the beautiful culture that we have, and that really culture is prevention, our cultures are intervention, and our cultures are healing. And so he kind of got what I was saying, and then we were able to get a grant. And he asked if I had a project that I had in mind, and I said, well, yeah, I'd like to get more people together in the state to start talking about our wild plants and foods and healing. And so we started the Kayaaní Sisters, and there is Eva Burke from Nenana, and Gloria Simeon from Bethel, Ashley Dow from Ketchikan or Metlakatla, and there is Louise Brady from Sitka, Trixie Bennett from Ketchikan, Disney Williams, she's lives in Juneau. She's from the Aleutian and Metlakatla. And let's see, Colleen James is living in Juneau. And we got together, and even though we came from different backgrounds and different cultures, we all were worried about what we were seeing as far as harvesting in the state and in our own communities. And some of the people maybe didn't even consider themselves plant people, but we know we are all connected and we share the same spirit, and that again, plants are our relatives. And so anyway, so we started this Respectful Harvesting Guidelines document, and so it's something that you could find online. You could download it and use it. I had actually some early conversations with Vivian Mork, who's in the back. What we call ourselves planties instead of deadly aunties. We're deadly planties, yeah. And the conversations were around, how can we bring this to our communities, how can we heal, and also protect what we love, and also learn about these things, because we didn't grow up with them, a lot of us. And so anyway, we have the document. I'm finding that living in Ketchikan, it's working, I think you can share it with businesses who maybe you don't think are respectfully harvesting. We have a lot of tourism, and so there's a lot of cultural appropriation, and you see our things for sale, and maybe it's not done in the right way. And so we came together, and this is kind of the list of guidelines. I forgot Tia Holly from Soldotna Kenai area. She's Inupiaq, but she lives in the Kenai area. So the first, anything that you guys want to add, do let me know. Okay. So the first, first thing on our list of bullet points, and again, lists can be problematic. So if the Forest Service wants us to write down every plant that we use because we want to protect them and we don't have one on there, then we might be in trouble. This is an example. And so, but we were connected to everything, and we used everything. And so we know that everything is connected as well. So we don't have to. So this is a list as well. So it's not an all-and-all type of list. You can add to it. Maybe you could. It's a start for tribes to use to kind of start their own lists. And so you're free to kind of use this however it might work for you. They're using it at the university and the ethnobotany program and in the schools and in different places. So the first thing is building an understanding of the people of the land that you're on. So if you're harvesting in Juneau, you might want to go and check with people in your community that are from there and learn about the Occoquan. And if you're here in Sitka, you might check with people here. And so building an understanding of the people of the land that you are harvesting on. And this is a picture of Marie Olson with Adelina Padilla. And Adelina was the first spiritual elder of the tribe and the first female spiritual elder of the tribe for the Chumash in California. And Marie is here, but she's living in Juneau in this picture. And this is the way they greeted each other. That's the way. They didn't know, Marie didn't know we were coming over, and she was in her garden. And I thought this is a really beautiful picture because they didn't waste any time. And so that's what I think we should do more of, really understand people of the area and take our time to get to know people, but don't waste time. So they started singing to each other, and this is the way, again, they greeted each other. So we're going to strengthen our connections to the people of the land, and to each other. A lot of the pictures you'll see are like my grandchildren, and I have 9 grandchildren and my sister. This is my daughter and a late elder in Saxman she was dressing her. So it was very humbling for my daughter to have this robe put on her from an elder. And so it would be our opposite at the Kuweek. So we know that everything is alive and connected. So that interconnection. So one of the things on the list is also to prepare yourself, and we all have different ways of preparing ourselves to go harvest. And so not telling anybody what to do, because we all come from different families or different backgrounds and cultures. After getting to know the people of the area, then how do you prepare yourself? And so there are a lot of ideas because the women came from all around the state. And so some people said a prayer, some people sang a song, said a blessing, some people left a gift, whether it was tobacco or a strand of hair, maybe cedar. Some people dreamt about the plant before, and or maybe grandma told a story the night before and they would dream about this plant. And so whatever it is, you'll hear most of our elders say, go out in a good way. Don't go out if you're angry, or make sure your heart's in a good space. Choosing your words. I love this picture of my friend George Hawley as we're in Panama, and he's given this stick. It's a medicine stick, and even though we didn't speak the same language. You could tell that George was honored, and this was a very special moment. And I can't believe he got it through customs. So, there's a picture of my mom and I here. But choosing our words we know words can be hurtful and harmful, but also so beautiful. And when we think about our languages, anything that we can do, I heard the elders speak very clear last night that anything that we can do to keep our languages going, learn one word or to sign up for the language classes. And so our words are full of love and understanding and all of these things full of values. And so choosing our words carefully, maybe learning the indigenous language where you live. A lot of the classes are free now. You could take them online. So I would love to see, as there are language classes starting up within all of our tribes, positions of healing, traditional wellness positions within our tribes. And I think some of them are starting to add that into their services that they provide. And so that would be one of the things I would love to see grow. We want to honor and respect our teachers. So this is a picture of Rita Blumenstein, Dr. Rita Blumenstein, and she's an amazing elder that passed away, and she also is still teaching us today. She was the first traditional healer of the state of Alaska that delivered her first baby at age 9, and she would go to when she moved to Anchorage, people would come to see her, and they would come to see her, and she would see them during AFN. And after several years of her going to different hotel rooms, I think one of in South Central started a traditional healing program where she worked. And she also worked for the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium. And she traveled all over the state of Alaska and the world. She was one of the 13 indigenous grandmothers. And you could find out a lot from her. But she never said that she was a healer, didn't call herself that. She just said, I'm just Rita. Yeah. And so she was a wonderful teacher. And so whenever we're sharing the knowledge that maybe we've learned, we want to remember our teachers. So whether that's whenever I'd go to Anchorage, she didn't have seaweed. So my way of honoring her was bringing her favorite foods from Southeast that she couldn't get, and recognizing them. And when you're presenting, saying that they were a mentor for us or a teacher. There are a lot of ways to respect our teachers, which includes our ancestors, of course. So remembering our ancestors. Honoring and respecting our plant teachers. And that could be taking care of the plants, advocating for the plants, caring for the areas that they are growing in, learning about them all throughout the seasons so you can recognize them. I could spend my lifetime just trying to learn about one plant. So I feel like I'm just still learning a lot. But also protecting these plants as well. And so we know that all of the plants need each other as well, so they're connected. So asking permission. So that can also mean a lot of different things. So asking your neighbor if you want to pick their berries, or finding out whose land that you're on. And unfortunately, that could be a little confusing, but, and just asking the plant for permission. And here we are, I'm with Holly Churchill, and she's doing a class on cedar bark harvesting. And although I've gone out with her several times, I still feel like a baby. And so there's so much to learn. But here she's showing me how to strip the inner bark. So asking permission definitely is something that was on our list. Harvest safely. This is in Alaska, it could mean a lot of different things because, it's dangerous. So she has a survival suit on. This is my daughter, and they have a 8th grade survival trip in Ketchikan, and so it's kind of a rite of passage that they have this. You gotta, survive for a couple days, out on a little island, and so what they do is they get food from the beach, and they live off the land for the day, and then the second day they could eat the food that they brought. And so on the second day, some of the teachers and the kids were yelling at me and my daughter, who were down at low tide again on the second day, saying, "Oh, Miss Naomi, you don't have to eat that food. We can eat our real food today." And I thought, I was like, oh no, this is real food I like, and this is what we're going to eat. And so bringing it back to the teachers and in services, I explain that wouldn't it be wonderful if our kids were learning the language of the land, that the places that all have names already. So we're not renaming things, we're reestablishing the names. They have Tlingit names. So, and let's learn about those names. And how about learning about the nutritional value of these foods, and and making things that are delicious, and making it a prideful thing, and not something that makes our children feel bad for loving these foods. And so part of all of that is changing that mindset of we get to be out here, and we're gonna really learn about what we have, why we have everything we need is really here, right outside. Harvesting carefully. You might not be able to see in the back, but basically it's the same picture for each one, and they're all something different. But yeah. You can, one plant can be poisonous in one area depending on the soil, so it's really, I would say, I talked to the ethnobotany teacher in Fairbanks, and she said, since they started with the plant apps, you can get plant apps, and they can be helpful, but she said she's never had so many students get so many of the plants identifications wrong. And so, so it is good to use the internet as a source, but I wouldn't use it as my main or even my first source. I would start with the person that is from the area, a local expert, and they're all over, and all of you are experts here in this room as well, and we all have knowledge. So, finding somebody in your area that knows about what you're harvesting and going with them, a book and internet, it could be next. And also the reason why we started some of this work is because we weren't able to find a lot of information that was indigenous based, authored by indigenous people, and so it lacked the spirituality or connection of this, to this place. And so we wanted to make sure that spirituality and this slide don't go together. So I'm going to go to the next one. And so harvest thoughtfully, making sure that you have a plan how you're going to use this plant or food. I was asked before I started using some of the medicines myself to go and harvest for elders, and so that's how I learned, and they would tell me, show me. Some of them showed me. Sometimes they asked if I would just go get it, and they would tell me, and so really having a plan. And I think and one example is like picking fiddleheads. They're fun to pick, but they take a long time to clean. And so if you're so when I'm with the kids, I'll usually say, okay, we'll pick fiddleheads together, but we're gonna, each one you pick, clean it and then put it in the bag, and then you can pick another one. Because all of the time is mostly spent afterwards, putting up our fish, is, processing it and drying it, preserving it, and all the time goes into cleaning. So. And my favorite part is the practice reciprocity. And I think that is something that's we just do naturally in our cultures, here is my grandson. He's getting his Tlingit name at the Ku'ik, and so he's giving somebody a cedar rose to remember. They're going to remember his name. That's their responsibility. And then my daughter is gifting Leona from Juneau a gift right there in Berners Bay. So I have a story about reciprocity, and if you've been to one of my presentations before, you probably heard this, but I love this story where I was taking my grandson out to pick bog cranberries, and he didn't really understand at first like why we had to give them away. And it's like picking up marbles on the ground, and it takes a long time to get a little bowl. And it was during COVID, and so I asked him if he would like to do that, and he said yes after I explained it. And so we gave it to one of the elders, and we put it on her door, and then we just kind of knocked. And later on, we got 2 phone calls. They were so excited that this person was Dolores Churchill, and she was just, she's amazing. She was Zooming. And so she was Zooming, but she was teaching Hodkill and on the Zoom. And the lesson that day was bog cranberries. And so she was reminiscing about how much she loved them and how her family would care for this area in Haida Gwaii. And so, that's the magic of sharing, and when we do things in balance, how, I think those things happen a lot. And I start to quit being surprised when they happen. Yeah. So practice reciprocity and leave no trace. I think those are some of the main points of the harvesting guidelines. Any comments? Okay. And so those can be, we'll have a little table with these on here, but I don't know if I have enough, but I don't know. I'll put these right here for later. So the harvesting guidelines then were developed by the Kayaaní sisters, and Kayaaní means, Bob says it really wonderful in one of the films. Kayaaní, it means blossom or plant spirit. And so, and I got the name actually because I was inspired by the Kayaaní Commission, which I didn't really get to know any of them, but I thought it was something that had stopped and that wasn't around anymore. But the Sitka tribe of Alaska still has the Kayaaní Commission here, and Bob Sam is one of the last elders that is alive today. But in the booklet they created, they have kind of their ideas and concepts of why everything is connected and why they care so much for the plants, and a lot of really good advice that's still used today. So yes, what can we give back? And I think that's the question to maybe a business that I feel like maybe is not doing a good job of respectful harvesting. So I ask, what are you sharing? Are you benefit sharing in your community? Are you giving back? What are some things that, helping them with ideas and how they might be helpful? Because it makes me sometimes sad when I think about for example, beach asparagus being kind of sold everywhere, when elders in my community can't go and get it because they don't have access. And so it'd be really easy to share with them, I think. And so how can we help with, sharing? And so in our culture, we hold each other up, our opposites, and my father's people. And then we want to become our own naturalists. So I think we're learning as we go. A lot of us, we weren't connected, and it's not our fault, just kind of like our languages as well. And so when we get out, it's really, what I see is just a lot of healing happening. Yeah, so we would make medicine for our opposites, regalia, gather food, and be there in times of celebration and in loss, and do what we can. And I think that when we think about that type of balance and that kind of way of life, it's really hard to think of anything else that might work as good as that. So I like the idea of trying to learn as much of that as possible. And then we become medicine for the land. So it's all about relationships. Yeah. Relationships to our ancestors, the land, ourselves, and each other. I'll kind of skip over that because we covered those. So plant teachings is, there's a program that was started by the Northwest Treatment Indian Center in Seattle, in the Seattle area, and the Seattle Indian Health Board, and GRUB, which was Garden Raised Urban Bounty. And it's been taking off. I think they've been around for a decade now. And so I went to one of their trainings and I was just amazed. And because we share a lot of the same plants, it was really easy for me to kind of pick this up and really use it a lot. And so for about the last 3 years, and I've been working with Elise Crone, who's with the she was with GRUB and works at Northwest Indian Treatment Center, and we came up with plant teachings for Alaska, the Alaska edition. And so, and the reason why we have these three wonderful people is because they're all a part of this collaboration. There are many people that helped put it together. The Respectful Harvesting Guidelines are in this edition, and we're really excited to share what it's about and more about it today. And like I said, we don't have a lot of time, but it's really wonderful because it's helping us with not only just learning about the plants, but the teachings that they have. And so the idea that plants are our teachers. And so you'll get a chance to get up in one of these groups and kind of take a look at the plants, but also the teachings, which, for example, cedar. We use cedar for everything, and especially in Ketchikan. And so we used it for bathing children when they were born, dipping them in, for when girls came of age, for ceremony, for medicine, for baskets, for our artwork. And so cedar has given us everything. And cedar's been here a lot longer than us. And so cedar's plant teaching is generosity and kindness. And cedar is generous and kind. And so that's one example. The plant teachings curriculum has a book, plant teaching cards, and so there's some videos and some infographics. And so infographics are now in the Tlingit and Haida Tsimshian languages, and the posters are almost done. We have about half done. And so the plant teachings book doesn't have every single plant at all. It's just mostly, picked what we can kind of work on. And the wonderful thing is that this could be, it could be adapted to each of your communities. So if you live up north or in different areas, you can use your own languages. And it's, what do you call it? It's it's a Creative Commons. So as far as the copywriting, it's for anyone to use as long as it's not changed and you say where it came from. And so it's really wonderful. And we started doing plant symposiums in Ketchikan about 4 years ago, and it was really amazing when you just bring plants to people. We know, like elders say, I'm not sure, I can't remember anything, or I don't know anything about that. But then when you put them near a plant or you bring it to them, all these stories come out. And so it's really wonderful. And so what we did was we had something for our tribe, and the comments that came back were I'm so glad that you bring this to us. We've been waiting. Or my heart is full. Things that were more than just getting together about plants. It's hard, it was that connection. And elders, young kids, all sorts of ages, people were really excited about just being around plants and learning about them. And so they keep asking if we can have one every year, but it was a lot of work. So we've been doing them every other year. And some trainings in different communities as well, so that other people can become the trainers. And just let this kind of take place. Mm-hmm.
In Khasheechtlaa, I'm the health administrator for our tribe. So we have behavioral health, and we have women's groups, men's groups, and plant teachings has really resonated with, even in the men's group. It's people in recovery often have a lot of time, and to learn and to connect with plants and develop a relationship with them, it takes time. And like Naomi said, it brings up a lot of memories. And the wonderful thing about the plant teachings is it includes, so many things, almost like you would be, how to go about ceremony, appropriately, the balance, being respectful. Because when we got together, the biggest concerns were, we're afraid to share our knowledge, because look what's happened with mariculture and our fisheries, and we didn't want to share our knowledge. It was hard for people, and the women that got together, and Bob, in sharing our stories and our concerns, we were able to come up with the respectful harvesting guidelines that helped ease a lot of that concern, and encourage people to do things in a good way. And this comes with online, what is it called? I can't remember, but all the activities and guidelines. So you could apply in a school setting. You could apply at high school. Kids love it. Kayaaní Indian community has a high school, and the kids are learning plant teachings with Khasheechtlaa, and it's really understanding, the plants, the seaweed that's on people's regalia. Some people didn't even realize that's plants. It's just so it can be diverse, and it's just well received. And we're always trying to engage people. We're trying to do culturally responsive programming and curriculums in our school, and even in Western medicine. Our goal is to have some of our plants in our pharmacy. Could you imagine getting prescribed Devil's Club salve on your neck right in the pharmacy? Or maybe it's our high school kids that are making the medicine for their elders. It's food sovereignty. All these, look at all around you, it's all edible. And we see a lot of people eating all the proteins, but very few people know about the plants or feel safe. And we need those plants to digest those proteins and to make the best. And Western science is catching up with indigenous knowledge. And so it's pretty exciting stuff. And I guess that's it. Sheesh.
So yeah, a lot of the tribes are using it for the training in their social services, behavioral health programs, in the language programs, and it's been really wonderful to see. And our cultures protect us, and so I like to share this slide because it's beautiful. Thanks to Khasheechtlaa that helped with the artwork. And but those are all things that can help protect us and our children and our families and our communities, and when we're doing these things. And so definitely the plant teachings is a big part of that. Oops. So the way to tell our history is through our art. And I think of how do we protect our families again? And we think about how do plants protect us? And we have stories of our plants. We have artwork around our plants. Bob shares a story about how we come from plants. And so definitely something that has not been talked about a lot because it's it wasn't, for a lot of different reasons, it wasn't thought of as being safe. And so now it's still, not everything is safe still, but there are some things we can share. So I think we're gonna have you get up, and it's kind of hard to do this, but there's 3 tables, and what you're gonna do at each of the tables is you're gonna be able to take a look at some of the plants, and there's a little list of the plant name, the plant skill, which would be the plant teaching. And the plant teaching, we have little cheat cards. So you can list the skill, and then also bonus points is if you know any of the indigenous name for the plant. And there are some Tlingit plant cards on the table as well. And so, so going through each of those and 3 different groups, if people would like to stand up and kind of take a look, and we could maybe I'm not sure if we can open the door because it's really hot in here. But yeah. And then so. Oh yes, we could pull one of the, let's do that. We'll take one of the tables out in the hall, and we'll do this for about 15 minutes. We'll go 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll come around.
It's a test.
It's a test, yeah.
If you have been to our ceremonies, we have a very active life with our ancestors. We have a very active way of asking them to come and be with us. That's what you saw last night. And so I love the way that he did this, because I think that a lot of times people are not really aware of their own ancestry. And so when we do things like, I'm with the herring protectors and we do gift making, and I tell people when we give gifts, it's in the name of our ancestors. My ancestors fought the Russians, and so I think about those ancestors that literally fought so I could be here today, and encourage people to think about their ancestors, their grandmothers, their special people. And so this is a way of calling their strength and their beauty to us. And I love that we can do that. And I love that on the front of the booklet is my mother, Yedi Kuka. And I feel her presence, and I feel my father's presence in so many things because I am part of them. So, can we start without the mic?
We can mic and sound at a distance from them, and I don't hear that.
Okay. And just so you know, it is about relationships, and so my great-great-grandmother, Yanni Tagoshkein, was married to Wushkitan. So that is the Shark clan, and that is Naomi's clan. So I would refer to her as my in-law because my great-grandmother was married to Wushkitan. And then we're related to, Kachadi, raven. So the raven, we have the moiety system. So I think I would call you my niece or my sister. You're younger.
I got to put dye in my hair.
And then Bobby. And I have just been friends for 55
years.
And the first 10 were
55 and a half years.
and the first, 10, 12 were quite interesting. If anybody, no, you guys don't need to know. Good story. I know, and when I saw Birdie today, I was like, holy, I thought she was somebody else, and then when I found out it was Birdie, the last time I saw her, there were cats sitting, kittens sitting, and that's a whole other story as well. So, are we okay to go? You're picking up the sound of it? And as I said last night, you know, people are commenting on how sometimes we don't know our language. I do not know my language. And I said I would not apologize for that because we are in a place here that was specifically created to assure that our language would still not be here. I am always learning as best I can, so I'm going to read some Tlingit. And I'm going to read some Tlingit. Hashagenya.
Our protecting power.
Hashagenya.
Our protecting power.
Hashagun.
Our ancestors.
Hashagenya. Atuus.
We call upon our protecting power.
Hashaguni hastu shatsini. Hatuye angau.
To instill in us the strength of our ancestors.
Waskut hawasus hakusti yiglut.
It is as if we are lost without our culture.
Ya yidat ya satki kat wutu adi auhan ha. Tu wasigu wutushagugu ade yatlagi ka hakustiyin hashaguni has.
We who now walk this land seek to learn the ways of our ancestors, to live in harmony and balance on this land.
Hatuasigu uhan tuye kutustia.
We seek to live as one with the land and animals.
Aqa'awa qahtusaku ade yaqeyi ye yaklaq ka aqa atshayed hin.
So that too we may know the beauty and bounty of this land.
Aqa'awa qadain qahtusatin hatlagi qahakustiyi ha itq ya hasnadi a hastujiyas.
So that too we may protect our land and culture for those yet to come.
Gunulchish
We are thankful.
ha kasani kahatuka hayak gwahashyago satsini.
Our strength, body, mind, and spirit.
Gunulchish
We are thankful.
gunulchish
We are very thankful.
ha shagenya.
Our protecting power.
And so that's something you can learn. And it takes a lot of practice. You probably don't have to try this Tlingit, but you're welcome to. But at least maybe the English when you are going out and harvesting, because that's that connection and that relationship to the land and to everything around us. Because I think that so many people have lost that ability or even the interest to find out what that relationship is. And it should be just as important as all of the other relationships that we have.
Kunakchish. So I'm going to ask Avery, and maybe there could be another person to volunteer to pass out some tea. It's really hot. Some of you might know what it is, but don't tell your neighbor. So we'll kind of talk about it, but before you drink the tea, take your time and smell it. Think about, maybe it's bring a memory to you. But anyway, it's an activity called Mystery Tea. And maybe even a little less because it's so hot. But, and I'm going to ask Bob now, while you're having your tea, he is going to share. Yeah. And we'll be passing around some salal berry jam with bread as well.
First of all, I just want to say I'm very honored and privileged to be a Kayaaní sister.
Honorary?
Even if it's honorary. My name is Bob Sam, born and raised here in Sitka, Alaska. I was born in the village here in Sitka, back in the territory of Alaska, when there were about 500 to 600 inhabitants of the village of Sitka. I was raised in a home where we didn't have running water. We didn't have sewage, a sewage line. We didn't have electricity, and we had to haul our water. All of our food came from nature, every bit of it. And we couldn't afford Western medicine. And I come from a very large house. 6 sisters, 3 other brothers, uncles, grandparents, mother, father, all living in the same house. It was very difficult life, but a life that I will never forget. I loved it. My grandmother spoke Tlingit, and back then, I didn't know the difference between Tlingit language or English. They were both spoken in the house. I was raised by my grandmother, who was a midwife, very knowledgeable of plants and very knowledgeable as a midwife. So going out, picking berries, gathering plants are something that I used to help my grandmother do. And she used to prepare her grandchildren for plants. And the night before we go out, she would prepare. And she would talk to me. And she would say things like, really good things, really powerful stories, just to make me feel good about myself before I go to bed. She'd always share something. And do you know that it was Raven that made the first human beings? Raven made the human beings out of stone. But there was a problem with that. Stone people lived forever. And they were slow. And they lived as immortal people. But they were too slow. So Raven pushed the stone people into the mountains. Pushed them. And Raven grabbed a plant and made a human being out of a plant. That is why plants, they remember that human beings came from plants. They remember. So a plant would willingly give its life to you. We don't kill the plant. The plant presents itself to you. And that's why plants have so much love for human beings. Unconditional love that they will give their life to you. This is another thing my grandmother would say. Be kind to plants. Don't cuss at plants. And she would do a little demonstration. If you cuss at a plant, what would happen? What would happen if you were angry at a plant? It would die. You could kill a plant just with your words. Most of you know that. So kindness is very important. My grandmother always made me feel good. And when she noticed that I was just the happiest kid in the world, I would go to bed. And sometimes she would talk about the plants we're going to get in the morning. When I go to bed, go to sleep, I often dream about that plant. The plant that we are going to get. I would dream about it. So the next morning, my grandmother would wake me up, and then she would guide me through the morning, and she would say, "Wash your hands with pure water, pure cold water, no soap, pure water you get from a creek." And as I was washing my hands, washing my face, arms, she would say things like, "If you think about it, that plant that you dreamed about last night, as you're washing your hands, washing your face? If you think about it, that plant is also washing its hands with water, washing its face with water, the same time as you are. So I'm preparing myself, and the plant is preparing itself because we dreamt about it. And the plant also dreamt about it. So what does that mean? What does that do? Well, when I go out into the forest, into the muskegs, I will actually walk up to the very plant that I dreamt about. That plant and myself are connected. And that plant gives its life to me because we both dreamt about it. So a plant would never die. We would talk to that plant just like another human being. And this is an important part. If you can talk to a plant like another human being, then something special is going to happen to you. If you cannot talk to a plant like a human being, then nothing happens. So what happens is this. When you talk to that plant, this is what happens. You become like a doctor. When somebody visits you, it will be like they are walking into a doctor's office. And as a doctor, because you can talk to plants, this is what happens to the doctor. You'll start to notice things. Fingernails, eyebrows, hair, even how people carry themselves. You'll notice it. But you have to know how to talk to plants like another human being. And when you notice the fingernail and the hair and how people dress and how they carry themselves, you will know which plant that they will need for their life, just by looking at them. Isn't that what a doctor does? So plants. This is another thing about plants. Some of you think of yourselves as healers. Some of you are human beings who think you have great knowledge, and just that your presence alone heals. No. I'm going to talk a little bit about one plant. You mentioned this plant earlier. Don't ever call this plant by its English name. Never. Those days are over. This plant should never be called by its English name. How it got that name is this. It was in an Audubon book. And in that book it states, as somebody walks up into the woods, they're walking along and they step on the root of the plant, and that plant comes up and slaps you in the face. I've never known anyone in my whole life that has happened to them. It's false. The Audubon book called that plant Devil's Club. What a horrible name to call that plant. Horrible. This is the true name for that plant. And I would like all of you fluent speakers, I want you to think about this for 1 second. We call this plant zacht. Zacht. We call a human healer what? Echt. That's a human healer. So what is zacht? It's a plant healer. And this is a thing that you will hear among older people and storytellers is this. Once there were a time when the Tlingit people were hungry. There was no food. The hunters, the fishermen, when they go out to hunt and fish, they come home, nothing. And the village was hungry. Everyone was starving. Among these people, there was a young man who prepared himself, who fasted and prayed because the people were hungry. He prepared himself and he went out to hunt. And this is the important part. When he went out to hunt, there was a woman. Came across a woman. And this woman talked to him. And they became friends. And this woman was called zacht. What the important thing that I want to share with zacht, it's not the human healer. It is the plant healer. It is a plant that becomes a human being. And that plant becomes the teacher, the sensei. So it's not the human healer that has that power, it's the plant. Sacht became a human being to teach us how to become better human beings. Another thing about Sacht is you'll see the buds on top of windows. You'll see the buds underneath beds. You'll see it. It's just like a dream circle. It's not used to keep bad things out. It's used to bring good things in. So Sacht is one of our most powerful teachers on the planet. In a plant like Devil's Club, just its presence alone can teach you. Just its presence alone can teach you how to use this plant. So it's powerful. It came from the plant world into the human world to teach us how to be better human beings. And oftentimes you'll see it in the corners of the room. Sacht, the woman, in each corner of the room teaches the hunter or provider how to be a good man or a good provider, how to hunt, and then they go to the other corner, and the Sacht teaches another thing, and another, and teaches the hunter how to change their attitude. So Sacht is put on all the hunting gear, all the fishing gear, put on everything. And there's some taboos that you hear that are just small bits and pieces. And today we only hear those small bits and pieces, and we take it as gospel, when we should really hear the whole story. You'll hear, this is the small thing that you will hear. When you go out hunting, don't have sex. When you do this, don't have sex. That's a small bit, and that's what happens a lot of times to cultures. We only get bits and pieces. So what it really meant was, you got to be a good human being. You got to treat your wife, your family, and everyone in your family good. You got to be a good man. So I could talk a lot about Sacht, and I'm very grateful to be a Kayaaní sister. I'm very honored because, well, it's time we heal. Isn't it time the genders heal? That we set aside our hard feelings? I'm very fortunate that I became a storyteller at a young age, because becoming a storyteller helped me become a mentor. And how that happened was, in order for me to be a storyteller, it's sure good to see you. This guy trained me. In order to be a storyteller, I had to pass a criminal background check anytime that I was doing anything with women and children. This is very important to me because I'm 71. I started storytelling at 30, and I haven't been in trouble since. So this background check saved my life and kept me out of trouble. So I'm very happy that I've lasted this long, and I received the trust of my peers. So I could talk for hours about this, but I just want to say thank you to you, and Dave Hunsaker as well, and Tim Wilson. We need more storytellers in our lives. For 10,000 years, you folks sat around a fire listening to storytellers, and it's only been the last 100 years that we had these things. So I'll stop there because it's time. Thank you.
Sheesh. Khasheech. Good to have you all come up. So a very brief, just kind of an overview, but plant teachings helps with mindfulness, stress tolerance, relationship building, and all sorts of, like regulating our emotions. And it gets us, brings people together, the plants do. And so just really excited to share with you all. And if you have any questions, we could stay back. And we have some of the harvesting guidelines here. But I would like to say thank you to my peers, to Bob and Louise and Trixie. And just Khasheech for inviting us, the committee for inviting us, and all of you for taking the time to be here today. So, Khasheech. Oh, I forgot the tea. Anybody have any? Khasheechtlaa, right? And the plant teaching for Khasheechtlaa is belonging. When you're away from home or you miss it, a lot of people have brought back a lot of memories, and you all belong here. So we wanted to share. And the berries were tsi. You don't have them here or in Juneau if you're from those areas. It's a southern southeast, Ketchikan, Prince of Wales, Metlakatla berry, and also known as laughing berries or smiling berries. And so, but it's a salal berry. So I wanted to bring something that you couldn't get here to try. So that was the berry, that little jam we made. And so thank you for being here today.